Welcome to another review for All That Film. Today we're tackling the Safdies' latest project, Uncut Gems, and we'll be getting into it as we have a little bit of a disagreement with a couple of people. I'm your host, Tay. I'm joined with Turtle, Theo, and Matthew, and we're talking Uncut Gems. Let's get to the review.
That's my family! Get the kids out of the house!
You having a good time?
All right, so as mentioned, we're talking Uncut Gems, the Safdies' latest project of 2019. Turtle, I'll let you go first. What are general thoughts on this film?
I think it's just a better good time. Honestly, it's got all the like really cringy type moments of good time, but with like it just feels better complete.
Interesting. That's interesting. I obviously brought up the sort of disagreement that we're going to be getting into here. I would completely disagree with that. I think this is actually a departure from Good Time.
Yeah.
Just because I love the colors in Good Time. I love the whole vibe of it. I love Robert Pattinson. And to me, like, there's just so many things that just felt like, oh, hey, they were trying to emulate that. And it didn't work out as well. I have a lot of fundamental problems with the story that I guess we can get into more in spoilers. But I really don't enjoy, and I understand like you're not supposed to, but I just mean, even as a bad character study, I don't particularly enjoy the character of Howie. Whereas I think there were so many interesting characters in Good Time. But Theo, what are some general thoughts you have on this film?
So it's interesting because I think that I feel like going from Good Time to Uncut Gems was kind of like, it's kind of like going from one car into another car, where like everything feels really very familiar, but there's small things and you can't help but prefer the first car simply because you're used to it. And so like I joke that like Uncut Gems Good Time walked so that Uncut Gems could stumble. But I don't like dislike that. I think it's interesting that Uncut Gems is like, it's like middle-aged Good Time if like Robert Pattinson's knees were sore and he couldn't be running all the time. So like he found another way to like chase his high, I guess.
Yeah.
You know?
Of course. Yeah. Gotcha. Matthew, what are some general thoughts from you on Uncut Gems?
I'm going to take a quote from my review. If Good Time was an LSD-induced acid trip, then Uncut Gems is one giant line of cocaine. Everything is experienced in extremes. Anger arises quickly, and you're paranoid the whole time. I love Uncut Gems. I love the score is really great. The performances are good. I'm not sure how it goes with anxiety-inducing compared to Good Time, but I think I prefer Uncut Gems just slightly a bit more than Good Times. I think it mostly has to do with the performances, especially between Pattinson and Sandler. I love Pattinson in Good Time, but Sandler in Uncut Gems is fantastic. I don't know. Slight preference.
So one thing that I think is important to bring up, I guess, for my how I came to this film is that I kept hearing over and over, oh yeah, it's so anxiety inducing. Whereas with Good Time, I just heard, oh yeah, it's really cool colors. It's got Robin Pattinson. And even then, like the anxiety drivenness of it wasn't what was really holding it together for me. But regardless, I think that was a little bit of a deterrent because so many people, like, that does affect expectations of the film. And you're like, if this doesn't have me, or at least like my mindset is, if this doesn't have me having a heart attack the entire 2 hours and 12 minutes, then it's going to be a disappointment, which is unfair.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. For whatever reason, like, there was a lot of the stuff that, like, I don't know how to explain it, but I just wasn't on edge.
Interesting. Okay.
And I don't know why. Like, I don't know what they could have sold better for me to be like, oh yeah, this is really getting me nervous. This is really getting me on the edge of my seat, because I think I don't know. Adam Sandler's a good actor when he wants to be. And when he wants to, crowd fund vacation trips with his friends, by all means, go for it.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think. Another couple gripes, I guess I'll mention real quick, and then I'll let everybody else talk positive. I actually thought there was some bad ADR in this.
Oh, fascinating. In which parts do you
Mm.
think?
So there's key moments specifically with his side piece, if you will,
Yeah, okay,
that
interesting.
I thought were like.
Sorry, I keep thinking like, oh, his McNuggets.
Oh,
Sorry.
jeez. No,
Because if
but,
any movie was gonna have McNuggets, it'd be a Safety Brothers film.
yeah, no, but there were a couple times where like she would say things, and they just didn't feel like they were in the room, if that makes sense. Like they were recorded in a studio. And like it's not a big thing, but like I don't know, the Safdies seem a little bit better than that. So maybe like that's why I was like on the edge of my seat, being like, "Ooh, let me notice." And maybe it's because I wasn't enjoying the ride as much. So like flaws like that start showing up to me. I also think, and we could talk about this as non-spoilery as we can. I actually don't enjoy the third act of this film.
Ooh, okay.
And there's
Okay.
very personal reasons for one of them. And I can say for this specific part of the movie, if you're a sports fan, I can understand why you dig like a lot of this. I'm not the biggest sports fan anymore, but specifically in this era, like I was a huge sports fan, and maybe to one of these teams in specifically, which I won't mention in fear of spoiling some of it. But yeah, y'all continue with positives.
Well, so just a quick question is just because since we're talking about sound, this isn't like really a complaint in so much as it's more of a question to you guys. Did you feel that like the sound mixing was like a little interesting at some points?
Yeah.
Uh,
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Specifically, do you have like a
I don't
specific that's non-spoilery?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, were you gonna say something?
Oh no, I was saying like I definitely. Well, it was part of it. It was part of the kind of nervousness of the film that all these kinds of piece of dialogue were layered on top of each other, on top of each other, on top of each other, all the
Okay.
friggin' time.
Interesting. Okay. So it's very interesting because like again, I actually am like quite positive on this one. This is just like one tiny thing is when I think my specific example is like sometimes it felt like really particularly in the intro, the music was a little bit louder than I was expecting. Just in the fact that it was like, oh, I don't know if like I can't quite hear what they're saying. Like when they're
Okay, wait.
You
Can
know
I
what I
throw
mean?
out one thing on that real quick?
Yeah.
That sometimes has to do with the theater you're in.
Oh,
And
okay.
the only reason I mention that is I didn't have that. I didn't have that issue. B, that's why I did not like. I had a terrible experience with I, Tonya,
Okay.
because I legitimately thought that there was an Oscar movie they released that had a poor sound mix where you couldn't hear the characters at all the times. But I'm almost positive. I haven't gone back to it yet because I had such a bad time. Because there would literally be moments where the soundtrack would kick in, and then you couldn't hear what the characters were saying.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. I wonder. Okay.
Was it an AMC too?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of their smaller theaters that they use for lower budget movies, that happens.
Okay. Never mind. That's bad. That's not too big. That was just since you were talking about.
I mean, it's big for
Audio.
your experience because that can.
It was, but yeah. Sorry. So I think we're gonna go into positives that.
Oh wait, I want to mention one more semi-negative, I guess, for the experience. Another thing that like really bugged me is, I guess, with like expectations going in, is like I forget who I had talked to, but I was like, yeah, Uncut Gems is killing it rating wise, because it was at like a 4.4 when the screener dropped.
Oh yeah, totally.
A couple people were loving it, and they were like, oh, don't worry, it's because it's early and people are just liking to gush about it. This is currently sitting at a 4.3. Like,
yeah, right.
On Letterboxd, which is insane to me. And like, I'm not saying people can't have opinions. I'm not saying that I'm not clearly wrong here, and I'm in the minority, and I understand that. But I went on Letterboxd and I searched for reviews that were like lower than a 3.5, and the only person that I follow that has lower than that is Allison M, who gives everybody everything
Yeah,
3 out of 5.
She gives everything
Yeah.
a 3 out of 5.
I
Yeah.
know.
Which like there's some this year, like she gave Waves a 5 out of 5, which
Yeah,
I was like,
I know.
that's wild.
Whoa. Yeah.
But I was just surprised because like there weren't too many people that weren't digging on Uncut Gems, I guguess. So
Yeah.
it just feels weird because normally, like with Midsummer, I was like, okay, well, like I wasn't too high on Ari Aster before, and with The Lighthouse, like it's just that genre that is weird and didn't click with me as well. But with Uncut Gems, I genuinely don't understand the movie other people saw. So with that said, positives.
Do you think some of it is just the surprise of Adam Sandler?
What do you mean?
Like just the fact that people are saying, "Oh, Adam Sandler's back." Oh, what a surprise that Adam Sandler is a great actor, which shouldn't be that big of a surprise.
But he was in.
I
But he
get
was
it.
okay.
in
This
Punch Drunk Love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This bothers me so
Yeah.
much
Isn't that
because both this year you have Uncut Gems and Marriage Story, and the two things those have in common is Meyerowitz stories, which no one talked about. Adam Sandler's great in it, and it's directed by Noah Baumbach, and again, no one talked about it.
Do people watch that film? Like, I love that film, but do people watch it?
I don't know.
question.
People don't discuss it as in the same way as like Marriage Story is being discussed. I feel like.
I need to watch more Baumbach stuff.
Wait, we talked about this. You said you were going to.
Yeah, all right. I've been busy, all right. Stuff has happened in my life.
That
You're
was
not
just
watching
not the truth.
6 movies a day on your winter break. Come on,
Yeah,
bro.
come on.
Okay,
Yeah.
look, shut up, all right?
But yeah,
Those are like a minute long, all right?
Turtle, get to
It's
pause.
very easy to get out.
Oh,
If you wanna gush, because
He's about to drop that ban hammer.
no, we'll just say that Turtle has this very high on her 2019 list.
Ooh,
Yeah,
he's the number one.
Who knows? You have to listen to it. No, well, it's one of my. It's not exactly my number one film. It's one of my number one films. If that makes you feel better. Hey,
Ooh.
but
That hurts me more.
it's right up there. I'm sorry, but I think like, can I just say on what you said about Good Time feeling like there's more at stake, or like Pattinson's more likable. I think honestly, a lot of credit goes to Ben Safdie, who played the brother.
Yeah.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, because Adam Sandler is like, while I am quite fond of Adam Sandler's shit character, I think lacks the vulnerability that Benny Safdie brought to A Good Time that made there was huge stakes, whereas Good Time, it's like, I don't know.
Oh
It's
yeah.
silly.
So
Yeah.
so I guess that's part of it. With the Safdies, the two projects I've seen, and we haven't even touched on heaven knows what yet. Both of those two before now are almost to me where they're saying, oh well, these are bad people, but they have good stuff. Like they're bad people in context, but if you add a little bit more to them, like they clearly have good stuff about them, and some of the badness that they have is like circumstantial, whereas this was a complete departure in Uncut Gems, where they were just like, hey, this character is bad and he's going to stay bad, and like there's nothing that's going to redeem him ever.
Yeah.
I kind of like that though.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I like those kind of characters. Where it's
That's
just like,
fair.
how low can they go?
It is very interesting because I, for whatever reason, I was just motivated to like watch the rest of the Safdies filmography recently. And so like they besides Heaven Knows What, they did Daddy Longlegs and The Pleasure of Being Robbed, which like are crazy Cassavetes, the last two. To the point where I'm like, oh, this is like Sofia Coppola and like a relation. Anyways, but I'm just thinking like it's interesting you bring that up, hey, because I do agree with you where I felt like in the previous films there's a certain like, oh, it's so tragic because it could have been so different. And
Yeah.
that is actually true in Uncut. That's definitely true in Uncut. I think that like in their previous ones, I have like so much sympathy to the characters in their positions, and like I kind of left heaven knows what just feeling really like hollowed out in a very similar way that Sean Baker does with his films, who I love. Where like you get to the end and you're just like, oh my god, like why even exist when the Earth is cruel? And I think that's nothing to say. I think Uncut Gems is interesting because it's so complex and grand, and I love that about that. I love how complex it is. I think that like in the very final moment, it didn't hit me as hard in a humanist way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can understand that.
I almost like, can I push back on that? Because I think
totally.
While like I completely agree, the Uncut Gems has this element of things could have ended differently, but I also see Uncut Gems as a story about an addict, really, and for an addict that's destroyed all of his relationships because he just can't stop being a thrill seeker.
Yeah.
And truly, if he just got therapy, I think this film could have ended.
If he just got some help, this whole movie would have been just not happening.
So I'm not trying to take away from that point, but the issue for me is like cinematic wise. That's why I really dig The Irishman, because you see they're like, oh hey, here's where this guy is before the fall, and I feel like we don't get that context, which like that makes a story for me like difficult to understand like what they're going for, I guess, because I get what you're saying, but I don't know. I guess in missing that, oh hey, here's when things were good, or when things were right. But yeah,
totally.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think it's in all of their movies, their characters suffer greatly from something that is tragic, and I think in here it's the least like cinematically tangible, if that makes sense.
No, I understand that. I actually want to get to spoilers on this, so we'll just cut to grades.
Okay.
Then we can go right to that.
You and your whole fucking family. I heard you resurfaced your fucking swimming pool. You know how that makes me feel?
Never
You think your life is more important than my life?
I don't know who said.
Okay, so Turtle, what are you going to give this film out of 10?
I'm giving it a 9.
Whoa, hot.
I know.
Nice. That's hot, to quote Will Smith.
I dig.
Theo, what are you going to give this film out of 10?
I'm honestly giving it a solid 7.
Nice.
Like, it's a type of movie that like I actually I love Good Time, and to me, it's a type of movie where I'm like, I don't feel like I come across as hot simply because I'm approaching it from a context of like, oh, I like these ones better, but I really think it's a good film.
Nice.
To me.
And then I'm going to stick with, I actually think I'm just going to give The Lighthouse, Midsummer, and Uncut Gems the same score. It might be lazy, but I feel very similarly. So I think I'll go with like a 4.6, 4.7-ish out of 10. But Matthew, round us out. What are you going to give Uncut Gems?
I might have to rewatch it another time, but as of now, I think it's out of 10. That's just me right now. I deal in extremes with films where it's like, if there's like 5 good elements, I'd love the film entirely.
Nice. Okay, cool. So that about wraps it up. If you guys have seen the film, make sure to stick around for our spoiler discussion of Uncut Gems. Thank you guys for listening. If you want to check out our other reviews, they will be linked at the end of the video. Additionally, we have a podcast that releases every Monday, so make sure to check that out and hit the subscribe button. See ya. Bye.
Wouldn't want to be a bitch.
The money right now.
Howard, got my money? Howard!
Is it too late? I'm done. It means nothing. It meant nothing. Please. Give me another shot.